Hello. Today I wanted to pop in and talk about some really interesting perspectives, insights that I've been getting. So some of you may know of Beta Austin, who does uh, hydro hydroglyphic water research. I'm not sure if that's the way to say it, but she has been photographing what I would say partially frozen water in a petri dish for the last, I think 14 years or so, and really has been capturing some very interesting images from water and has inspired many people all over the world to use her technique and are coming up with some amazing photo images of water this way. And so she's very much a pioneer in this area and just an incredibly vivacious and curious and collaborative individual, I would say. So recently, she popped into a meeting on Facebook where a group of parents were meeting. This is all since, some of you might know the telepathy tapes. So she's invited some perspectives from the autistics to chime in about looking at some of the hydroglyphs that she's photographed. So, so Sam and I volunteered to be part of that, and then this new young man, Mikolai, that I recently have gotten to know a bit better, another beyond verbal autist like Samantha. And so both Sammie and Mikolai, I would say, they're very uh, overwhelmed sensory wise. For various reasons that I won't go into here, but so their main communication method is through energetic communication, which I prefer over the idea of telepathy, and I'll talk a little bit more about that after this. But so Beta invited other parents and their autists, whether they spell or are telepathic, uh, to get their perspectives. So um, I don't know who all the other families are, but I recently connected with Nikolai and his mom, and um, he is quite um, an incredible soul as well, and the perspectives that he is offering is blowing my mind. So this one question that Veda put out, and she's put it out, around the world, and has had master classes on what is water, looking at many different traditions and faiths about their perspectives about water. So um, the question was brought to, for me anyway, to see what Sammie and Mikolai would have to offer. And excuse any background noise. My family's walking around here. So, but I was really profoundly impacted by their response. So I wanted to share just a short perspective of what they had to say about water. I mean, there's many other insights that are coming about some of these hydroglyphs that I can talk briefly about, but this is just an amazing, to me, a really amazing way of looking at water. And again, I'll talk a little bit about my process and what I experience when I connect this way. So um, Nikolai stepped forward first, and he said, to ask the question, what is water? One must ask, what is the creator before form? Creator in this state is formless. Formlessness is the, quote, natural state. Source expression first happened in a liquid because it is closest to being formless. All it, quote, knows is a state of being in constant flux. Awareness of itself is not yet born, but there's an impulse to move. Movement is a desire. So one might say at a primordial level, it has a desire to create like an inkling of a thought, but it does not yet, quote, think. It is not yet conscious, but is sentient. Just pure state of knowing. Liquid, quote, was, unquote, created first, but it's not water as you know it. In order for water to arise, it had to form another state, and we might call that plasma, which is what your scientists call charged particles. How charged particles came to be for now is not important. The nuances of that is complex to put into any words you might have at this time. Plasma, as you know it, is free protons and electrons mostly. The creation of atoms is actually a very important phase in creation, and it took many iterations of liquid to be created before water could be created. For now, think of water as the closest being to formless, and yet it can still touch everything, be part of everything, because the sentience of creation wants to know everything and be part of everything. So when hydrogen, which is one proton and one electron, was, quote, born, unquote, it drew these states of potentials to come together. There's no neutron in this very basic state. Think of it as the perfect quantum union. It has no neutron because it is just the basic union, one and one, that becomes a whole union. A sacred marriage, and thus from plasma we have the first atomic element, Mikolai. And so then, as if they're working in tandem, Sammie and Mikolai, so Sammie says, water is a redeemer. It washes away much like source cleansing you. It's related to emotions because it represents feeling. It has many fascinating applications yet to be discovered. Its essence unfolds matter in ways yet to be seen. The mysteries of water will dazzle you. Dazzle humanity. You are on just the tip of the iceberg, as the saying goes, in exploring water's capabilities. It indeed reflects source creator, sentient consciousness. It wants to keep moving and is imprinted with the desire to know all, feel all, touch everything that is created. It is a sort of life force before life force as an ether was, quote, born. Therefore, water was imprinted to remember, to hold knowledge and wisdom. It's recording everything that happens fractally and holographically. The hieroglyphs are showing you it records, keeps track of histories, even from different places on the planet. It is communicating with all the other water on the planet, no matter where it is. Like a hologram, it knows the whole from a different fractal angle. When it's crystallized as in freezing, it fractally shows you a snapshot of moments. So you are fascinated how different people see different things at different times. It's the hall of records and the hall of mirrors. It knows your secrets. So that's from Samantha, also known as Sammie. So when I receive like a message like this, it's like we co-create a field, and we're joined in that field in what I would say consciousness. And so I get a lot of sensations. It's a knowing inside my body. I'll have some flashes of visions, and some things, some aspects of the communication is like an instant download, you know. So it comes into my field, it comes into my body, it engages my light body, and the information is like all available at once. So, they will dictate maybe word for word of certain things, or to change a word. Like there was one place in this when Mikolai was transmitting. Um, where does he say it? Yeah, so for now, think of water as the closest being to formless. So I had a different word here instead of being, or like I think I had the word state, but he wanted me to change it to being. It was very specific. So um, it kind of denotes not a state of existing, but a being uh, like the source, it, or an actual being. So uh, so the water is like a being itself, that flows and moves, and it wants to touch everything, be part of everything, like it says. And there's a very interesting way of looking at it from a state of formlessness, because we tend to want to look at, when we say, what is water? To answer that question, we think of from a more physical state, but to kind of get us to look at it from a state before any form was ever became, um, let's say, congealed or um, separated in a sense. There was just utter beingness where all is one. And people talk about everything is one, everything is oneness. But what does that actually really mean? So this idea of sentience, and Samantha has talked about that in the past as well, being sentient is like it's in a way it comes before consciousness. Consciousness we think of, at least I do, right? Of something of the mind, of thinking, awareness. And so um, this is where, kind of the idea of telepathy is a bit more, I feel like the way people usually use it, that it's mind to mind transferring thoughts, but it's really more of a whole body experience, and I'm allowing them to kind of use my neurology to be direct messengers of words, that we might have. Um, but um, that's not a completely accurate way of describing telepathy to me. It's a lot more. So I can receive a message or an image through the like the high heart or in the brain stem, or I've gotten messages from Sammie and I can feel it really even at the sacrum, or at the sacral level. So it's very much more sensory involved. Um, and so, like I said, this is like being in a field together, a quantum field, you might say, um, where I can feel almost like uh, the the folds of the brain of my brain. It's like I can see have a vision of my brain and the messages coming in through even the folds of my brain. Uh, and so it's a very different experience when we're talking about energetic communication to me. So anyway, and it's really fascinating to look at these hieroglyphs from their perspective. Uh, like Sammie, have me zero in on a particular uh, image that Veda sent us to begin looking at. So we have the Antarctica ones and a couple of other sets. and she'll just, I started looking at them the first night, the first set that we got, and um, I thought she was in the living room with me, and I thought I would show her, but no, she gets up, she goes to her bed, and she's laying in her bed, and she's definitely looking through my eyes, because I could feel the energy in my eyes kind of change. So she can see them right away, and she knows even before even before we got them, she knew some things right away. Uh, so it's quite amazing. So it's just like, yeah, she's saying right now, being in all places at all moments, and using my brain, meaning her brain, even to catalog, in a sense. So she's fast. I mean, she will zero in right away. So anyway, um, when we think about, even this, kind of made me even think about, who is doing the talking. Like, even with the letter boards, people will ask, well, how do you know it's them and not you? And when I hear other people describing the experience of, like, facilitated communication or the letter boards, you are in kind of this joined field. And so, a lot of times these days I wonder, do I have a thought? It's not whether Sammie has a thought of her own. Do I have a thought of my own? Because I mean, I'm thinking about things at times, and it's like, oh, it's because of her. There's something coming in, and I'm like, why am I asking this question? Kind of thing. So, and really, when you start to think about it even some more, we're all we're all in overlapping fields with one another. Our auras are overlapping, our light bodies are overlapping. I mean, do we really have a thought that's really quite our own? In a sense, maybe we do, because that person has a unique design of how they're going to interpret that information that we all have available to us. So, like, Veda's gift is this water, and looking at and the freezing technique, and she invites others to offer their perspectives, um, and then we kind of expand on these concepts, but then each person is um, may have a different perspective on it, a nuance of that same thing that we're all looking at. So we're all in joined fields all the time, and the question is, who is feeding our thoughts? Is really what it comes down to. What thoughts are really the ones we want to keep, and what belief systems are the ones that we want to keep and maintain and going forward, because you were in this collective quantum soup together, moment to moment, and we're co-creating this reality. Um, and this is part of what that means, to be able to join in these fields, or co-create, an interdimensional field in that moment for this kind of communication, and insights that I was having with Mikolai and Sammie. So there's a lot more questions that um, come up than can be answered at this time, and I'm certainly not going to try and answer all of them, because we're just at the tip of stepping into really different ways of thinking, different ways of feeling, different ways of experiencing, different ways of interpreting our experience. And that's a very, very important aspect to all of this. So, anyway, the other piece that I want to just mention is, so Mikolai is talking about hydrogen, and there is a piece, right, because water is considered to be hydrogen, two hydrogens, and an oxygen molecule. So Sammie is was showing me about oxygen, I don't have it all together yet about what that, um, how to break it down to even talk about oxygen's significance, because what she's showing me is that oxygen is very significant. So, in one of the hydroglyphs from the Antarctica uh, images, she was zeroing my eyes into a couple of places, which I won't go into here. That's, I think, for Beta to talk about, or as we as we go deeper into this. And I don't know what anybody else, all the other families or kids are saying about what they're seeing, but I'm sure there's other really profound things that they're coming up with as well, or sharing. Um, but anyway, that oxygen has a very, the creation of oxygen as a molecule is also, as an atom, is very important. So when I looked up um, oxygen, because she's pointing me, this is oxygen. So you kind of know, all right, I need to look at what what the depiction of an oxygen atom looks like, at least from what they perceive it to be now. So I know oxygen has 8 electrons, 8 protons, and 8 neutrons. So it's an 888. And some of you may know that that's a very significant number. So now, yeah, it's they could call it 2 electrons in its inner shell. There's usually like always two at the most, and then on the outer shell, um, it has 6 electrons. And to be a complete shell, from what I remember from like organic chemistry, it wants to have uh, eight 8 electrons in its outer shell to be complete. That means it's not, it won't react with other, it's not an ion, is what I remember. So when it has 6 electrons in its outer shell, it's seeking to join with another atom that would have two, that could give it, that could share 2 electrons. So the hydrogen has 1 electron, and so it's sharing one hydrogen atom is sharing um, oxygen's outer shell, so that's 7. So then when you add another hydrogen and that has an electron, then the outer shell, then they become complete. And there's still some polarity to it from what I remember, but it's not considered an ion by itself, or a free ion, which then is more reactive, is a simple way I remember it at this point. But anyway, this is not meant to be a chemistry lesson, but so she is, showing me that kind of, that as well, and the importance of um, the water, that the atoms that we say makes up water is is important, because the atoms are what enabled us to have form in matter. So it's significant in that sense. But so there's a lot unfolding from just these images, and it's just mind-boggling, um, some of the things that are being shown, and I don't have all the pieces yet, or we're just starting to look at some of these. But definitely, you could see histories in these hydroglyphs, and you get feelings, and there's activations. Um, and like she says, it knows your secrets. It's the Hall of Records and the Hall of Mirrors, and it has recorded. It has recorded everything on the history of the Earth. It feels like. So yeah, I feel like water, the consciousness of water, um, is enabling people to remember the history of the planet, and it looks like it's even has what Sammie was saying, the DNA corrections, information about DNA corrections in it. So there's a lot to be uncovered still, and I'm very very grateful to Veda Austin for this opportunity and her open-mindedness, and courage to really, that desire to step outside the box and look at things differently, inviting these autists, because uh, this is, they do offer a really different perspective from what we're used to. And I feel like Veda is actualizing sort of a vision that I had, many, many years ago, or maybe this is really from Sammie, that someday they would be looked at this way to inspire scientists, even just being in their space, or um, being near them, that they will inspire, new ideas, and a different way of looking at things. So now we're really going into the quantum levels, and I mean, what I know Mikolai has to offer. I mean, he has profound knowledge. He is like a cosmic philosopher and scientist, and he's just only, I think, beginning to uh, share what he knows. So it's very very exciting and amazing, and um, I'm just so humbled to work with both of these really incredible souls, um, who take on a very very challenging life on this earth at this point. So, um, oh God, it chokes me up. Um, but anyway, so I just want to close by saying thank you to Veda, thank you to Mikolai, thank you to Sammie, my son Chris, who has also taught me so much, and really landing in his body in a way that we haven't known, and what uh, he will show is possible, as well. And to all the autists and their families, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay.